2. See how the lights come on when you say 2? It's good, isn't it? All right, carry on. Thank you so much for coming to this event. It's a fairly major event for me, and it may well be a major event for you. Yes, Drew, you want to ask a question? Oh, sorry. That will come later. I was going to say that. There's questions afterwards, but can I wait till you're finished? Okay. Good stuff. The running order for tonight is I'm going to speak for a few moments and explain to you exactly what this music and word ministry is all about. Tell the truth, any of you seen that poster there and want to draw 2 big eyes on that head? When I saw it, I thought, it's definitely tempting, isn't it? Explain to you what the music ministry is all about. Following that, I'm going to invite my band up, the Hope Street Band. Most of you will know them anyway. And we'll play a concert for you. After that, short question and answer, and hopefully we'll answer most of the questions that you guys want to know about. If not, I'm going to be about for a while. Just come up and ask, and I'm happy to answer anything. Final 2 wee songs, and then after that, your tea and coffee. So you've got a wee bit to wait if you're looking for tea and coffee. Got a few wee points just to bring up, though. Like a magician's act. There is no rabbit. On your table, you'll find these cards, and it's really just feedback cards. If you want to know more about what I'm doing in the future, put your email address on it or phone number. If you would like to book myself to speak or the band to play, just fill in the details. And if you have any comments at all that you would like to write on the card, whatever they are, if you feel they could help in any way with the ministry, any suggestions, anything like that, feel free. There's pens and stuff on the table. Just feel free to write in, put your details on. You can do it anonymously if you want to, that's no problem. And a bucket will come round to collect them all, so don't worry about that. You don't have to be running about. A bucket will come round and it'll probably end up at the door at the end. You can just chuck them in. Okay, that's that. The point of the ministry. What is the point of Michael McMillan's ministry? Well, that's a very good question. I suppose, in a nutshell, the whole idea of me doing this is to bring as many people as possible to know Jesus. That's it in a nutshell. If I can do that through my music, through the words of my songs, and through speaking events, then I'm a happy man. If, however, I can also pay my bills and put some food on the table for my family, that would be great as well. Because I've got 5 kids to keep them cigarettes, so that's quite a big ask. You can help with this in a variety of ways, and the obvious one is donations, and there will be a bucket coming round. I make no bones about this. We don't get paid for this, and to put this on, we had to hire the hall, pay musicians, pay sound guys, get lots of printing done, so it's quite costly. Evening, Ian. That's a friend of mine just arrived. So there'll be a bucket come round, and just like church, just let it pass you by if you don't want to put anything in it. But anything you do put in will be greatly received. But you can help in other ways. If you would like to book the band or book myself for speaking events, that would be great. If you happen to run a printing business or anything like that you think might help the ministry, please get in touch if there's any way you can help. There's various openings. A quick resume of what I've done. Musician, runaway, police officer. We'll talk about all this later. Addictions counsellor, etc., etc. So I've spoken over the years to many, many groups of people, from kids. I spoke recently here to the BB here. We spoke about many things. I speak at men's groups. I speak at ladies' groups. I talk in issues that most folk maybe don't want to talk about. Things like suicide, things like pornography, things like drugs, stuff like that. Now, I know in the past that some people may have an issue with me speaking to their kids or people about that, but it's in a safe environment. It's with the agreement of whatever church that I'm working in or organisation I'm working for. And to be honest with you, if they don't hear it from me, then they'll hear it from somebody else. And it's better to deal with these things. The amount of pressure that's put on kids nowadays for exams and stuff like that, the suicide rate in Scotland and Glasgow is very, very high. I have a personal experience of that, which I'll share with you later on. I I think I've pretty much covered everything as far as that goes. As I say, there will be a question and answer session near the end, and we'll hopefully cover more of the things that I've left just hanging. Enjoy the night. Just relax, take your coats off. If you would like to do the churchy thing and get up and say hello to somebody right now, you can do that. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce the band, the Hope Street Band. I'll tell you who these guys are after. Most of you will probably know them in one form or another. No, I forgot the most important thing. Keep getting it. I've never been a salesman. Well, never a good one anyway. There are CDs for sale. That's the latest one. This is the previous one, which was recorded in Davy Jones' house. And from it, the 3 albums that I did, a book surfaced. And this is the lyrics of the book. They're all for sale. They're a £5 each, and you can get 3 for 20 quid. So it's a great deal. My grandfather once told me there are 3 kinds of people in the world: those that can count and those that can't. So, a wee story for you. This is into the music, but I can relax now. I hate the first bit. Do you like the hat? It's not quite. I didn't quite get the one in the poster, but I paint it every so often. It's the same one. This is a wee story, and there's a reason for the story. There's shall we say, a couple were hill walking. A man and a woman were hill walking. The names shall remain anonymous for the time being. And on the way up the cobbler at Aracher, it's quite a steep hill, one of them decided it was too hard and wanted to sit down near the top, but not quite getting to the top. And the other one, the man, decided to go on, and it was a beautiful day, and he got to the top, and the view was incredible. And he went back and he insisted that his wife, he would help her up to the top, and they made it up to the top. And saw the view. So many of us just get that far and just miss the view. If any of you are struggling with life, I'll walk with you. I'll take your hand. I'm happy to do that. So don't miss the view. Some of you are just maybe so close to seeing the view. Don't miss the view. I've been in dark places, drinking and sinking, and God took my hand, and He's never let go of it. So most of you probably do know God, maybe not. Maybe some of you don't know God, but if you've never had anyone in your life who cares, you can trust Him. Trust me, you can trust Him. This one's called Take My Hand. Two, three, four. Take His hand, Lord, for He is sinking. Take His hand, Lord, for He's been drinking. Tell Him you'll never let Him down. Show Him you'll always be around. Take a hand, Lord, for she's been crying. Take a hand, Lord, for she's been dying. Tell her you'll never let her down. Show her you'll always be around. Lord, they need to hear the truth somewhere. Lord, they need to know that someone cares. To feel the love that's being denied. To know you'll be there when they cry. Take his hand, Lord, for he is wild man. Take his hand, Lord, he's just a child now. Tell him you'll never let him down. Show him you'll always be around. Take her hand, Lord.
Take her hand, Lord.
She needs love bad now. Take her hand, Lord.
Take her hand, Lord.
She's never had now. Tell her you'll never let her down. Show her you'll always be around. Lord, I need to hear the truth somewhere. Lord, they need to know that someone cares. To feel the love that's being denied. To know you'll be there when they cry. Take my hand, Lord. I need to know you. Take my hand, Lord. I want to show you that I will never let you down, that I will always be around. Lord, I need to hear the truth somewhere. Lord, I need to know that someone cares. To feel the love that's been denied. To know you'll be there when I cry. Thanks very much. First of all, some of you have probably heard some of the stuff I say before, but I make no apologies for that because some of it needs said again. You know, some of it doesn't, but some of it does. There's a story of a farmer's son, and a farmer with two sons. One of the boys, somewhere in America, usually is, isn't it? And one of the boys is fine, he goes to school, he goes to college, he gets a good job. The other boy he can do nothing with, he just cannot do anything with. And it's a small farming community, and this boy's just falling out with everybody, every drop of the hat, you know, he's falling out with everybody. He's just got a mouth on him that, you know. So the farmer, after trying so many things, and I suppose this is important because our tongue is quite a vicious weapon, you know. He says to him, look, do me a favour, just for a month. He says, every time you insult somebody in the village, go out and hammer a nail into the gatepost outside. So he does that. So a month passes and they go out and the gatepost is fairly covered in nails. And he says, look, I thank you for your honesty. He says, at least you've done that. He says, but for the next 2 months, every time you apologise to somebody, take a nail out. So he agrees to do that. 2 months passes and he goes out and every single nail is out. And the farmer says, you know, I appreciate that. He says, but I want you to look at the scars that are left. I think James 3:8. I'm not good at quoting the Bible, so I've written it down here so I don't forget it. But it says, but no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. With the tongue we praise our Lord, the Father, and with it we curse human beings who had made them in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth come praise and cursing. And we're like that sometimes, aren't we? Especially in churches, do you know? Sorry, I didn't mean to, everybody's sort of going, can't believe you're saying that to us. This is a song about infidelity and deceit. It's called Sticks and Stones. That was the first lie I was ever told. Sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. What a lot of rubbish. Is that not a lot of rubbish? Did anybody ever tell you that? It's the most hurtful thing you can get, people calling you names. I'd rather have a fight. But not, I don't mean that. Do you know, at least you know where you're at. You know, it's... Anyway, Sticks and Stones. Well, she thought about the night they met, the fruit without the passion, vocal heart fraught, tough and lean, the loom will build the fashion. Well, he lied to her again that night, betrayal, tears, excuses. A strange new perfume filled the air, pain that leaves no bruises. And she said, baby, please be careful, whenever we're apart. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but your words break my heart. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but your words break my heart. Well, he thought that he could read her right, get inside her head. She could read between the lies and hear what wasn't said. But when the chips are down, we fish around for excuses in the dark, never getting down to the heart of the matter or the matters of the heart. She said, baby, please be careful, whenever we're apart. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but your words break my heart. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but your words break my heart. Baby, please remember, every time we start, sticks and stones will break my bones, but your words break my heart. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but your words break my heart. Sam Stevenson on guitar. This next wee song, Michael McMillan, born 22nd of May 1950, and I was born Michael Silverstein. I was born and brought up in a Jewish family, half Jewish family. Other part of the family was Catholic, so I hated religion. I just didn't want to know religion at all. And I don't mean to offend anybody here if you're a Catholic or Jew. It's not about that. It's just, as a young kid, it's very, very confusing when you go to school with the name McMillan, and because my father took his own life, my mum remarried, but I'll talk about that later. When you go to school with the name McMillan, the Jewish kids tell you you're not Jewish, and the non-Jewish kids say you are Jewish. So I learned to fight at a very, very young age in the name of religion, and I just didn't want to know religion. I could not understand why you had to do 4 Hail Marys and 5 backflips or whatever it is the Jewish people do. I don't know, but to get into heaven, I just did, and speaking in this foreign language and learning big chunks of Hebrew and stuff like that. And I thought, it wasn't for me at all. I just didn't want to know religion. So I got good at fighting. I really did. Did a lot of boxing and martial arts over the years. I really got quite good at it. Came to Christ, came to know Jesus. Suzanne Walker, we can start now. Came to know Jesus in 2004, and it wasn't a, it wasn't a huge thing that happened to me. I did go to an Alpha course, which I would thoroughly recommend. We'll talk about that later, though. I lived with my granny, and she used to bleach everything. Everything was bleached. And then as a police officer, there was a smell. You're working in cells a lot in police stations. In those days, there was quite a strong smell of bleach everywhere. And then as an addictions counsellor, I was working in the prisons, and again, all you could smell was bleach everywhere. So I guess I kind of had a domestic road experience as opposed to... So anyway, I'll tell you one funny story about the police. Just one. Any of you know Inverness? Have heard of it? Aye. Okay. There's an area in Inverness called Kessock Ferry, and at the time I worked there. That was my first police force before I went to Edinburgh. But I worked there, and it was mainly travelling people that lived there, and it was pretty rough. I loved it. I just loved it. Yes, believe it or not, I was a police officer. I know you're looking at me going, nah, he's got that bit wrong. Sure, he's reading that wrong. I'll tell you about the artwork after. And I worked in this area, Kessock Ferry, which is rough, and there was a block of flats on Rosehawk Road, and there's a wee old lady that we would visit just to make sure she was all right, and you get a cup of tea and all that kind of thing. But she phoned the station up one night shift and said there was 2 Neds, as she called them, in the close. So I went down, and it was 2 guys I knew. One of them was just at a Porterfield, which is the kind of local establishment up there like Berlin. And he was saying, look, Mike, we're just having a couple of cans of beer. We're not doing any wrong. If I get lifted now, I'm back in prison. So I chased them, as you do, asked them politely to go away. But was she not standing in the landing, and she heard this? So she wasn't happy about it at all. And she said, that's not good enough. I'm going to, complain. I said, look, I've told them just to wait in the back close. I'll go down and give them a right good, a good bollocking or whatever the word is. I don't know what a row. So she said, will you just do that? So I went into this pitch black back close, and I'm standing talking to this wall, saying, if I ever see you here again, I'll run you in so quick. And she's listening, and I turn round, and there's a courting couple wedged against the wall, looking at this lunatic policeman. So I tried to explain to them about the old lady, and she was gone. But that's just one. There's lots of good stories about the police. But again, going from Judaism to Christianity, being in London and all the rest of it at the time, I wrote this song, and it's called Faith to Faith. A young drum warrior with just one goal. Ages of rock had finally taken toll, but the rock of ages saved my soul. Atonement meant something new to me. God alone, my judge and jury now. No more pain and no more fury now. With you beside me, I am stronger now. Back to back and faith to faith. God alone, my judge and jury now. No more pain and no more fury now. With you beside me, I am stronger now. Back to back and faith to faith. So many people try to tell me how to live my life the way that they'll allow. Then I met 3 men that I trusted most, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. I was tired of traveling that lonely road. I was tired of carrying that heavy load. Tired of trying to keep our dreams alive. Let me be still, let me arrive. Many years I tried to sing my songs. I never knew where I was going wrong. I always thought that what would be would be. God had other plans for me. God alone, my judge and jury now. No more pain, no more fury now. You beside me, I am stronger now. Back to back and faith to faith. Back to back and faith to faith. We're back to back and faith to faith. Thanks very much. I wrote this wee song for my children, Jack and Lucy McMillan. They don't know the Lord, and the closer I get to them, the further they move away. But keep praying for them. Jack and Lucy McMillan, pray for them. So I wrote this song, Matthew 6:21, for where your treasure is, where your heart will be also. And my treasure are my children, my wife and family. Took me a long time to realise that. Children, I've dealt over the years quite a bit with suicide in young people as a police officer and working in addictions and stuff. And I just think the pressure on kids nowadays to achieve, I mean, it's not good enough now to get a degree. When I was a kid, if you knew somebody with a degree, they were a toff, do you know? But, you know, it's not good enough just to get a degree. It's got to be a first-class honours degree, and it's got to be blah, 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 blah. And the pressure we put on kids to sometimes be what we weren't, do you know, you need to watch that as parents as well. Sometimes you're getting your kid to live your life. Maybe you want your son to be a professional footballer, you know, or play for Rangers, you know, something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's, anybody in from Edinburgh? No, good. We were playing in Edinburgh a while back, and we arrived, and this guy, they always say A after everything they say. Like Edinburgh, eh? You know, and they said, what do you think of football in Edinburgh, eh? I said, I think it'd be a great idea, but it didn't go down anyway. No, so I've spoken to groups from kids right up to adults about these issues, and it's important to speak about them. It's important not to keep them to yourself. It may not affect you. You may know somebody it affects. It may be affecting somebody in your family that you don't know about. Tell your children you love them. It's easy to say, they know I do, but tell them, make sure they know that. My wife gave me a row for that. She says, you never tell me you love me. I said, I told you that when we get married. She said, I know. I said, well, nothing's changed. You know, but you need to keep telling them. This one's called Your Treasure is Where Your Heart Is. Children's laughter, and it seemed like yesterday. With eyes that sparkle, you had so very much to say. On the day that you were born, my world turned upside down. Tears of joy, you know I thought that I might drown. Your treasure is where your heart is. Heart is always true. No matter where I go, my child, my heart stays there with you. So much beauty, little girl, God gave to you, with a heart that matches everything you say and do. Strength and courage, son, you make me feel so proud. With love and kindness, you make me stand out from the crowd. Your treasure is where your heart is, and the heart is always true. Where I go, my child, my heart stays there with you. Take good care of your mother when the dark clouds come her way. Love your sister, love your brother, Make your own mistakes, raise a family, build a home. But just remember what I've been trying to say. Everybody, tell your children that you love them every day. The treasure is where your heart is, and the heart is always true. No matter where I go, my child, my heart stays there with you. The treasure is where your heart is, and the heart is always true. No matter where I go, my child, my heart stays there with you. No matter where I go, my child, my heart stays there with you. I used to get into bother, well I still do, for having these music stands, and musicians give me a row saying you should know this, you shouldn't have to have prompts there. It's not all the words, but just some. And I thought, you know, I went to see the SNO and they were playing Beethoven, hundreds of years old, and they had these things. It's nothing to do with my memory, nothing at all. I used to get into bother from musicians for having music stands, and it's one of you got it. No capo. Oh, I must tell you what this is. I'm a drummer, so I hold this thing even when I'm not playing, because I don't know what to do with my hands. This is, well, for musicians this is a capo, but it's a talent enhancer for drummers. See, real guitarists don't use them, they can play all the chords. I use these, I just put them on, and it makes me sound better, so that's what that is. And it says no capo, so I don't need to use this. I've got to put these notes down. I've never known a father's love. See, my father took his own life when I was young, and my stepfather and I never got on for whatever reason. I was never really sure what real love was, or what a father's love was meant to be. So when I came to know Jesus, I didn't really know what it was meant to be like, and I still struggle with that. You know, I'm a bit kind of, I have a problem with trusting people, and I think, why would he want to love me? I just don't get that at all. Do you know, I just don't get that, why the guy that created the heavens and the earth and you would want to love Michael McMillan. So I was a bit suspicious about that at first, but he does. That's the whole point. Too many times our foolish pride ruins stuff. It prevents us from saying sorry. Sometimes all we need to do is ask forgiveness and say sorry, and a situation is completely sorted. I see it so much in churches, never mind out in the world. That's my seat she's in. Do you know? And it goes on and the church is part. Somebody's laughing there. Yeah, I've been there. Absolutely. I've seen churches split because of something. Just one person won't say sorry. You know what? It's not worth it. Say sorry. See if you've got anybody to say sorry to in here. Just do that just now. We can wait. So I'm sure there must be somebody. I had to let God heal my hard heart, and sometimes it gets hard from time to time. This one, I've never known a love like this. This is God's love, and this one's called This Love. It could be about your partner, but it's about God. This one's called This Love. 1, 2, 3. This love that you feel inside, tell him that you love him. You've never felt this before. And this love that you cannot hide, tell him that you love him. Love that bursts straight through your door. Don't walk alone with your pride. Tell him, don't walk away and let this true love be denied. This love is all you need. Yeah,
hear his voice within you. Your heart wants to stay by his side. And this love is like the sea. You feel the power lift you. Love rising up like a tide. What can you lose? Not a thing. Go now, go now. Take that first step, and you will hear the angels say, yeah. Feel this love that is waiting for ya. Believe this love that is waiting for ya. You need this love that is waiting for ya. Receive this love that is waiting for ya. This love, like the sun, can you feel the heat inside you? Bringing that glow to your face. And this love never done, it will last forever, changing your heart with his grace. What can you lose? Not a thing. Go now, go now. Take that first step, and you will hear the angels say,
Thank you very much. That was a wee distraction while I put my brakes up. I made a wee mistake there. Tam keeps me right though. Before I knew Jesus, I had my own walk, and it was pretty good, I thought. I really did. Unfortunately, it used to take me down dead ends and roads that didn't go anywhere, and roads I probably shouldn't have been on. And then I met Jesus. This sounds a bit twee and all that, but it's true. Then I met Jesus and everything changed, because all of a sudden, once again, I say that the guy that created the universe, my imagination wasn't so limited. You know, I had him in my corner as well. I still do, hopefully. And things dramatically started to change. I wouldn't say it was like a huge explosion. If anybody been to a 3D movie, where you put these glasses on, it was a bit like that for me. I started just seeing the world a wee bit different. I just started seeing myself a wee bit different. I started hearing the things that I was saying and shouldn't have been saying. And it was a gradual, and still is a gradual process. I mean, for me, this was a new high from the life that I'd come from. This was definitely a new high. Capo 2. See drummers, you can't trust them. That's why it took me so long to become a Christian, because I had knocked, but I just didn't know when to come in. Do you know, so it was walking with you. Moving swiftly on. We've got a different running order here. I wrote this song for my wife. See, when we do the last one, I won't tell you the story again, but because I've just told you. I wrote this song for my wife. We met a while back, and we've been through a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of real stuff. And I had a real problem with trust, and I still do. I still have a real problem with trust. I had years of broken promises as a kid. From adults, and I just never trusted adults. They never ever told you the truth, you know. See, if you're saying something to a kid, make it yes or no. Make your yes be yes and your no be no. Don't say maybe, because a kid hears yes, that's going to happen. I'll stop rabbiting on. This one's called God Knows.
was very pleased to be there. When those thoughts came back to me, I was happy to be anywhere, happy just to be. I was sick and tired of hearing the liars and the just, sick and tired of feeling that I could never trust. Then I saw you standing smiling, and my heart just took control. I told you of my many lives, bared my very soul, and you listened to my stories, and you said you'd be my friend. But I pray that you will stay when stories end. And I thank God you love me. In my darkness you were there. In your eyes I see a future. When you smile I know you care. In the barren wastelands of my heart, the seed of your love grows. How your love could find me, God knows. Told you that I lost someone, my pain was clear to see. A person died so long ago, that person's name was me. And I said I'd been a fighter and a killer to my shame. But if I'd killed that man inside my head, to God that's just the same. For you see, by crying wolf so much, I hoped a wolf would come, I could save you from it, be a hero to someone. And you listened to my stories, and you said you'd be my friend. But I pray that you would stay when stories end. And I thank God you love me. In my darkness you were there. In your eyes I see a future. When you smile I know you care. In the barren wastelands of my heart, the seed of your love grows. How your love could find me, God knows. Thanks very much. Back to the running order. I won't tell you about the story about the stand because people give me credit for having a stand. And, my wife and I we were blessed to be in New York last year. It was last year? Yeah, last year. To promote the book, we were invited over. I was just blessed to play in Greenwich Village, which for me was amazing, where Bob Dylan used to be and all that kind of stuff. But we had some time to kill, and we ended up in this very, very quiet Irish bar, and it was huge bar, and there was a guy having a pint, and the bar manager and a waitress at the far end, and we just kind of observed. I love watching people. I just love watching people and just taking it all in. Any Irish people in? Maybe you. Great. Apologies for the accent. Some of you maybe don't know you're Irish, but that's fine. And this guy's having a pint, and this guy walks up to him and goes, "Here, I know you." And the guy goes, "Here, I know you." He goes, "Where are you from?" He goes, "I'm from Belfast." He goes, "I'm from Belfast." He goes, "Whereabouts in Belfast?" He goes, "Crumlin Road." "That's where I'm from." He goes, "What school did you go to?" He goes, "Margaret." "That's the school I went to." He goes, "When did you leave?" He
goes, 1960s. That's when I left. The other end of the bar, the manager says to the waitress, phone Joan and Terry and tell them to come down tonight. He says, I think there'll be trouble. And she says, why? He says, the Murphy twins are drunk again. I don't know where that fitted in, but I was telling that joke whatever happened. This is, thank you. There will be a bucket coming round, so don't worry about that. Pretty soon, I think. This is called Walking With You.
New high, walking along that road now, knowing where I will go now, but I'm walking along with you. Blue sky, walking away from the past now, watching it go so fast now, walking along with you. And in my heart, feel the love that you give to me. A brand new start. I'll be the man you made me to be. Sunshine like I've never felt before now. Walking along that shore now. Walking along with you. Sometimes when I'm talking to God above now, think of the ones I love now, and I pray that they walk with you. And in my heart, I feel the love that you give to me. A brand new start. I'll be the man you made me to be. In my heart, I feel the love that you give to me. A brand new start. I'll be the man you made me to be. Yes, in my heart, I feel the love that you give to me. A brand new start. I'll be the man you made me to be. Moonlight, staring at all the stars now, knowing I've come so far now by walking along with you. One night, I'm never going back to that cold road. I'm never going back to that old road, 'cause I'm walking along with you. 'Cause in my heart, I feel the love that you give to me. A brand new start. Be the man you made me to be. Yes, in my heart, feel the love that you give to me. A brand new start. I'll be the man you made me to be.
Thanks very much. I'll introduce you to these guys up here. Some of you will know them all. Davy Jones on guitar. Davy came into my life about 8-9 years ago. And has been a mentor to me ever since. I mean, a mentor. He's kept me right, really. Whether I liked it or not, he's kept me right. I mean, you can only have so many control freaks in the one band. Well, we've got them all. We've got them all. But in a good way. Do you know what? Was Sir Alec Ferguson a control freak? Probably was. But he got the results, and that's why I'll lean on Davey a lot. Any of you remember a band called the Concords? Mm-hmm. Your granny. Right, okay. Well, I'm blessed to have one of the members, the founder members of the Concords, on vocals, Gordon Webster. We were playing at Hunter House on the other side of town, and I was explaining that Gordon had been in the Concords, and we took a break, and there was two guys, and I heard them saying to each other, "I don't remember him in the Commodores." Wrong colour, mate. After he left the Concords, he joined the Elderly Brothers, which is what we are. Last, but by no means least, an incredible man in more ways than one, and probably more than he realises himself. Probably, if not the finest, one of the finest guitar players I've ever heard anywhere. And a great witness for God and Jesus, a great speaker, and a great set of teeth. Tam Stevenson. I think we're back on course now. This next song, I worked briefly in the Glasgow City Mission with homeless people, and when I was down in London, I saw a lot of homelessness, which we'll talk about later. There was a guy in Byers Road called Michael, no relation to me, but he's still there, and he's on that pavement, hail, rain or snow, and he didn't choose to do that when he was at school. He didn't say, "I can't wait till I'm grow up and I'm homeless and an addict." You know, that wasn't his career plan, but life just threw him some wrong cards. Some people I know have a problem giving money to beggars, because you don't know what they're going to do with it. But see your lawyer, when you pay him, do you know what he's going to do with it? Do you know, has he got a cocaine habit? Has he got a Ferrari? You don't ask. You give it with a good heart, and you hope that he's going to do the right thing with it. We can't always choose, Hebrews 13, verse 2 was the first scripture I got, and it's basically, the Daily Record version is, be kind to strangers, because you never know when you're entertaining an angel. And that's always stuck with me. I used to get angry with God. I still do at times, but he corrects me, and I just say, why don't you do something about all the trouble in the world? And he says, I do. I made you. Do you know? And that's the reality of it. It's not somebody else's job. It's our job. As a police officer, sorry, there is a policeman in the room, so I'll say a police officer. I used to see wanted posters up all over the stations, and I thought, there's never any unwanted posters for guys that are missing, posters for people that nobody knows about, and I always thought there should be posters up of missing children, missing people, instead of, So I wrote this song, another happy-go-lucky sing-along song, called Unwanted. Even the city has its seasons. In autumn people turn to gray. Through lonely summers some are lonely. Then winter winds blow them away. Like leaves that gather uninvited. From down below he looked above. He could see the way they live life. He just wondered if they loved. He had learned his lesson early. That poverty begins at home. Methadone was in his madness as he wandered all alone. Unwanted posters of unwanted souls, unwanted lovers playing unwanted roles, unwanted hate, unwanted pain,
unwanted children, unwanted again. For every man there is in prison, there are others doing the time. Mothers, fathers, sisters, lovers, with children living on the line. Don't you know this is our country? You boast about its reputation, but the way you treat each other, it's an ununited nation. It's a diminishing republic, not for poor or sick or old, or the young who are downtrodden, and those left out in the cold. Looking at unwanted posters of unwanted souls, unwanted lovers playing unwanted roles. Unwanted hate, unwanted pain, unwanted children, unwanted again.
Thanks very much. I quite like that key as well. No guitar. See, I've got to write it down, no guitar. I've stopped taking it off because every time I take it off, I knock the hat off. So either the hat has to go, whatever. What do you think, hair or no hair? I like no hair, but my wife says grow your hair. So I've started to grow it, but I'm not too sure. I was expecting that.
Agree?
Yes. I've lost loved ones in my life, close to me, and my wife and I have gone through a lot of stuff. As I said, we parted for a while, and other people were involved, and it got really, really messy. Got almost unfixable. It looked there was no way back from this. All I can say to you is if you're in that position, don't give up. I read this scripture, I've read it I don't know how many times, Matthew 9 verses 18 to 23, and basically it's about the synagogue leader coming to Jesus and saying, can you heal my daughter? Because she's dead, basically. And as he decides to go, the woman who's been bleeding profusely for 12 years touches his cloak and is healed. Now, I'd read that, I don't know how many times, as probably you guys have as well, but I suddenly read it, and it's not dead till he says it's dead. And it's not over or unfixable until he says that. So no matter how long your issue or problem's been going on for, or how broken it seems, keep going, just keep praying into this, because if God wants it to be fixed, if God wants you to be together, no matter where you are in the world, it'll happen. Sometimes we don't see that. What am I rabbiting on about up here? This is another one, I suppose, for lost loved ones. This one's called Wait For Me. I should leave this world before you. Promise me we'll never part. For all the times I held you, and all the love I brought to your heart. The light above the crystal water, the bright reflection of your smile. On our secret island, standing side by side forever.
love we have we take for granted, until the one we love has gone. And though our hearts are heavy, somehow we find the strength to go on. When you call and no one answers, when the silence makes you cry, too late to say I'm sorry, far too late to say goodbye. Tom Stevenson. Like a ship out on the water, at the mercy of the sea, like a lamb led to the slaughter, I just wander aimlessly. Through the days I hear your laughter, but it's the night I go insane. No more happy ever afters, till I'm holding you again. Beneath the warm Havana sunset, blood red sun cries on the sea. There I call your name out, and I will know that you are with me. If you leave this world before me, know that I will never rest until it's time for me and I can feel your head on my chest. Until it's time for me and I can feel your head on my chest.
Thank you very much. I was just thinking, how much I have in this life that I take for granted. And we do, when you think what's going on elsewhere in the world, we live in a fairly safe country with an honest government, an honest police service, an honest banking corporation, with a great medical service, plenty of medical supplies, food supplies, transport, education, opportunities. But we take all that for granted sometimes, and we go home to our homes. And I think in my life I've wasted what would probably feed most families in other parts of the country, other parts of the world. I think we do that, I think as well, when I came to Christianity, I struggled a bit with what you're meant to do as a Christian, and I actually thought it was about what you do and not what you be. And you go about kind of asking people what you should do, and some people will quite happily tell you what you should be doing. And I came across this a lot in the police service. You'd get guys with 20 years service, and they'll tell you that, I've got 20 years service, and they haven't. They've got 1 year repeated 20 times. They could teach you nothing. And yet you get young guys coming in who've been in a couple, 2, 3 years, and they're on fire. Same in churches. I've been in this church for 40 years. And they think, oh, you're awake. But equally you get young people in the church who are on fire for Jesus. So don't ever worry about how long you've been doing something. It's how you're doing it that's the important bit. It's not, especially you young guys, young Christians, just don't let anybody put you down because you're only 27. What age are you? With a beard? I know, man.
I'm only 21. Yeah.
Good to have you. This is the BB guys. Big hands. But better than that, he's a drummer.
Yeah.
So, where was I? Christianity. So I struggled, and I thought I was a bad witness. Wasn't good at telling people things. So I thought, what could I do that would make things easier? And I thought, what would Jesus do? And he makes things simple. It's dead simple. So I thought, I'm going to get a tattoo, and I'm going to get WWJD tattooed on my arm. So I'm sitting there in this tattoo studio in Glasgow, and there's a girl tattooing away, and came to the initials WWJD, and she says, what do they stand for then? I thought, now's my chance. And I said, they stand for, what would Jesus do? Thinking, this is it, we'll have a big conversation. So she thought about it for a few minutes. I won't tell you the exact language she used. But she says, well, I'll tell you what he wouldn't be doing. He wouldn't be getting a tattoo, that's for sure. So, that was that. But I go to Glasgow Elim Church in Govan Hill, which is a bit of a kind of wacky place. I don't know. It's the last church I ever thought I would end up, because I always thought they did cartwheels and backflips and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty close, I'll tell you. Do any of you go to a hand-raising church? Just one. Any of you not go? Oh, you're stuck now, aren't you? Anybody not go to a hand-raising church? Anyway, there's various levels of hand-raising. I didn't realise this. You can start off very kind of quite low down where you're just carrying the telly. Carrying the telly, and you can maybe get a 50-inch telly, when it's carrying the telly, do you know what I mean? And then there's the light bulb change. You do the light bulb. But there's the various things. It doesn't really matter. The point is, it's a fantastic church. I still see the humour in everything. And it was a couple of weeks ago, Tommy Gemmell died. Some of you maybe don't know who Tommy Gemmell was. He's probably one of the best defenders that Scotland has ever had, Celtic. But that day, they played the hymn Defender of the Week, and I thought, I just can't get that out of my head, like Striker of the Month, So it's there's another time they've got the collection going round, and they're playing Our God Saves. No wonder, do you know? But I just see the humour in that kind of thing, The point is, I don't think Jesus would really care what you wore coming to church, what seat you were in. I really don't care. I think we make it difficult. Where would he be right now? He'd probably be in the pub speaking to people. This one's called, What Would Jesus Do?
If you think that life is hard on you, take a look at what you've got. Stop complaining about the things you need. Think about what you just bought. See the poor man and the ragged child. A bitter pill is all he tasted. A single mother crying in the dark. She could live on what you've wasted. But if you'll change these moments in your life, take the old road straight and true. But if you're lost, meet me at the cross. Tell me, what would Jesus do? It doesn't matter who you used to be. Just remember who you are. Walk the walk, but don't talk that talk. You've been talking in that bar. Show example in your children's lives. Our regret will grab you by the throat. If you want to walk on the water, you better get out of that boat. Standing at the crossroads of your life, take the old road straight and true. But if you're lost, meet me at the cross. Tell me, what will Jesus do? And if by chance you should meet him, could you look him in the eye? Could you tell him what you did today? Could you explain the reason? Standing at the crossroads of your life, take the old road straight and true. But if you're lost, meet me at the cross. Tell me, what will Jesus do? Yes, if you're lost, meet me at the cross. Tell me, what will Jesus do?
Thank you. This is the last song of this wee bit. Play this song, there'll be a wee question and answer bit, and then a couple of more songs, and then you can get your tea and coffee. I know some of you, Richard. My wife and I were blessed to travel through America last year, and the year before we were in Brazil. With Michael and Helen Watson who are here. They've been loads of times, they're all veterans at Brazil. And we were fortunate enough to go to the favelas, which is like the shanty towns. We worked with one of the local churches, and the minister there, a guy called David Meikle, who's originally from Scotland, he's been there for about 30 years, and he's like feared. These are no-go areas. You don't go into these places under any circumstances. He walks about, his car's parked, probably unlocked, and nobody touches it. But he had to go to this woman's house to give her boys a row. 10-year-old, anybody get 10-year-old grandkids or kids? You can picture what a 10-year-old boy looks like. These 10-year-olds and his two 9-year-old pals have been downtown Sao Paulo with guns holding people up, and they would have used them. Do you know, that's the lifestyle they live, and that's how cheap life is over there. The other side of the coin is, when they get Jesus big style. There are no committees in these churches. Can you imagine that? A church with no committee. Do you know, you just do it. Like, who puts the tables out? We all do. Who does the witnessing? We all do. Who does the outreach work? We all do. You don't need to wait 3 months for a committee decision. So that was fantastic. But we travelled through America, and we went to Memphis, and we were fortunate enough to go to Gracelands. We went to Sun Records, which is a famous place, and I've got this in my arm. I had it on my arm. I've still got it on my arm. And they let us in free. But they showed us the bit where Elvis recorded his first edition, and it's got a wee cross marked on it. But when we walked around Graceland, it kind of struck me, you know, he was quite a sad character, Elvis, given all that he had. He was quite a recluse, and not a lot of people in his life that he could really trust. I was never a fan of his music that much. But when I came away from there, I started having a look at his music a bit more. I write lyrics. Lyrics are important to me, you know, and it's important to have a message. I couldn't just sing about the wild plains of Wyoming because I've never been there, But I started looking at Elvis's stuff, and anybody know Jailhouse Rock? You heard the song, you know, everybody knows that song. You ever actually thought about what you're singing? I mean, I've worked in the prisons. The warder threw a party at the county jail? I don't think so. However, it gets worse. Jailbird 4 said to Jailbird 3, "You're the cutest jailbird I ever did see." If somebody says that to you in prison, you're not in a good place. It gets worse. If you can't find a partner, find a wooden chair. Who wrote this? You know, and he's up there singing it, and we've all been singing it for years, you know. The other one that strikes me is, does anybody remember Thin Lizzy? A good pal of mine and I went down to London, he joined Thin Lizzy, but the song Jailbreak. Tonight there's going to be a jailbreak somewhere in the town. Do you wonder where that could be? Do you know who writes this stuff? Anyway, this song was written in 1969 by a guy called Mac Davis, and I've always wanted to do this, and it's as relevant today as it was then. Or, you know, it could fit any city. It's just so relevant, and I hope you enjoy it. As the snow flies on a cold and gray Chicago morning, another little baby child is born in the ghetto. In the ghetto. And his mama cries, 'cause if there's one thing that she don't need, it's another little hungry mouth to feed in the ghetto. In the ghetto. People, don't you understand? The child needs a helping hand. He's gonna be an angry young man someday. Take a look at you and me. Are we too blind to see? Do we simply turn our heads, look the other way? Well, the world turns, and a hungry little boy with a runny nose is out in the street as the cold wind blows in the ghetto. In the ghetto. And his hunger burns, so he starts to roam the streets at night, and he learns how to steal, learns how to fight in the ghetto. In the ghetto. Then one night in desperation, the young man breaks away. He buys a gun, steals a car, tries to run, but he don't get far. And his mama cries as the crowd gathers round an angry young man face down in the street, with a gun in his hand in the ghetto. In the ghetto. People, don't you understand? The child needs a helping hand. He's gonna be an angry young man someday. Take a look at you and me. Are we too blind to see? Do we simply turn our heads and look the other way? And a young man dies on a cold and gray Glasgow morning. Another little baby child is born in the Gorbals. In the ghetto. In the ghetto. In the ghetto. In the ghetto. Thank you. This is the wee bit where hopefully we can answer some of the questions. Following this bit, hopefully the bucket will get passed around and you can put it. Don't forget to fill in these cards, because it's really important I get the feedback. It can be anonymous, you know, but ideally if you could put some contact details if you'd like to book us or whatever. But any comments at all that you think might help me move forward with this ministry would be great.
I'm going to ask Mike just some questions about his journey. if you like. Now, you mentioned, Mike, when you were at school, there was a lot of bullying going on, a lot of fighting and going on. And tell us a wee bit more about that kind of growing up and some of the issues at that time, and also what you found positive when you were growing up, because that was your introduction into music as well.
Yeah, as I said previously, I was brought up with my grandma and grandpa, but school for me was a pretty tough time. It was a time of the year where, a year where anti-Semitism was pretty rife. I mean, I suppose it still is, and West of Scotland bigotry. Well, you know what that's like anyway. So I was between a rock and a hard place. Hey, there's a song. Sorry. I was between a rock and a hard place, and found myself fighting most of the time. However, the one good influence in my life was my grandpa, Grandpa Jack. He worked in the shipyards, and the other side of his personality was he played classic violin. Now, you just couldn't imagine that, really. This was a hard guy that played classic violin, and he would play classical pieces of music, but he brought them to life and told me the story behind them. So he introduced me to music, really.
But what was the instrument that you actually took up then? Was it violin?
No. I'm a bagpipe player. I'm a piper. I read somewhere that the definition of a Scottish gentleman is someone who plays bagpipes but doesn't. No, that led me into bands, playing in a pipe band.
Yep. What kind of pipe band was that?
It was a BB band. It was actually, this is really embarrassing, because it was the Jewish Lads Brigade, right? Now, try and find Jewish people that play pipes. You're not going to find them. You're just not. There was 3 of us, and the rest was made up of Catholics. Robert Gilligan, there's a good Jewish name, do you know? So the band toured all over the place under the guise of the Jewish Lads Brigade, but I think there was hardly anybody in it.
But at 16, your life was hard, so you ran away to London and became homeless, and got into some interesting company. Mike joined the police. He told you that, but his connection with the police actually goes to that time in London, because when Mike went down to London and started getting involved in pretty hairy lifestyle down there, he shared a flat with Stuart Copeland, who was a drummer in the Police, the band, the Police, and also was involved with Thin Lizzy. And tell us a little bit about what you saw when you were down there. Keep it clean, right enough. But what your experience was of life in London. And then I'm going to ask you to read one of your song lyrics, if you can.
When I wasn't out my face on drink or drugs or fighting people, because I tended to fight a lot in those days, I used to walk a lot in London when I wasn't playing, because we'd come back, we'd do gigs and maybe come back 3, 4, 5 in the morning. It was daylight, and I used to see people sleeping in doorways. And we're talking 1971, 72, and I couldn't believe this. I'd never heard of homelessness. I'd never heard of people in our country. This is the 20th century Western world, people sleeping in the streets. I couldn't, and they were young. They just, they really were. So that saddened me,
But you wrote a poem which I think illustrates some of what you were seeing then. Do you want to read that?
Yeah, I've got the big print version. I've not got my specs on.
It's called Everything Tastes Good When You're Hungry.
Yeah, it's true. I met a guy in prison briefly, and the prison food's not great. And I was saying that to him. He says, "Look, everything tastes good when you're hungry," and that kind of inspired me to write this. I'm no poet, so excuse the way I say this, but I missed the last bus from the city. It was cold, and I started to roam, and it seemed such a terrible pity for the people who thought it was home. The drunks on the corner were shouting at women with no self-respect, and a child of 14 just shouldn't have been the victim of so much neglect. Everything tastes good when you're hungry. You'll sing almost anybody's song. You'll eat pain and hurt, and you'll swallow the dirt when you ain't tasted love for so long. A man lording over his lady, there wasn't a hair out of place. She cowered in fear as he wiped off a tear. I saw that bruise on her face. A young boy, his eyes filled with sorrow, eats food that's been thrown on the street. Then he gets in a car with a man from the bar who pays him just to be sweet. Everything tastes good when you're hungry. You'll sing almost anyone's song. You'll eat pain and hurt, and you'll swallow the dirt when you ain't tasted love for so long. It's not what you do that's important. It's what you could do but don't, that's the cause. So when you're stuck on a course that would choke any horse, hunger is still the best sauce. And when you're sitting at home with your loved ones, don't you judge the young girl on the street or the man with no hope who's just trying to cope without any shoes on his feet.
You came back to Scotland and you were in the police, but you weren't really happy with some of the things that you saw and experienced in the police, and you thought there was another route for you, and that then led you into working as an addiction counsellor with alcohol and drugs, particularly within the prison.
Yep. I worked in a kind of sunny village in Edinburgh called Wester Hales. I liked it. It was great, and I still see the humour in people. You know, I mean, you know the Guile shopping centre. Well, when they were building that, there was a woman that I used to work with, for want of a better word, who was a prolific shoplifter, And I said to her, Mary, I said, there was the sales were on. No, that's the whole point. I said, you're not going down to the Guile to shoplift. She says, no, I'll wait till the sales are on. And I couldn't get this at all. But I suddenly realised, because it's busier then, but I thought, you get a bargain. Anyway, but I had some funny moments in the police. Some I can tell you about and some I can't tell you about. But
okay, you're working in the prison. At that time, you were looking for more and you began to look towards faith. And you got a book that you read that really was the kind of basis of change in your life. You want to tell us a little bit about that book?
Sure. I was working in Low Moss prison, and at that time in my life I was in my darkest, deepest, worst place I could be. Pardon me. And somebody gave me a book called Nobody's Child by a guy called John Robinson. And it's basically a journey. This guy had been in prison. He was a Bernardo's boy. He was homeless, but he found Jesus in prison. I didn't know actually Jesus was in prison, but he found Jesus in prison. And he gave his life to Jesus. And I'm a real cynic, as you probably guessed. At the end of the book, if I could phone God, I would phone God. I would, and say, what is numbers all about? No, I would. At the end of the book, there was a phone number. Sorry, I'll take heckling. I'd bring it on. And it said, if you want to know more about Jesus or about John Robinson, phone this number. So I phoned it, and I explained to John where I was at, told him what I was doing. That was an addictions counsellor in the prisons, and he said, that's what I do. So I thought, coincidence. So he said to me, he listened to my story, he said, I would advise you, Google an alpha course. Find your nearest alpha course. Go along to that. Ask whatever stupid questions you want to ask, and if you're still not convinced, give me a ring back. So I hate to say it, but I found a church, Greenview Evangelical Church in Glasgow. And these guys have got the patience of a saint, I'll tell you, because the questions, I cringe. One of the questions I asked was, if I become a Christian, can I still wear jeans? And I was serious, because my vision of a Christian was big baggy corduroy trousers and thick bottle top glasses, and that was just the women. But cut a long story short, Alpha was fantastic for me. Nicky Gumbel and Pippa and all, I liked it, I loved it, and I thought it says it the way I'd like to hear it. And at the end of it, I gave my life to Jesus, and that was the bottom line.
But working with prisons, you would have seen some real experiences, and I know you've got some stories about guys that were asking you, particularly one about bikes. I'll ask you to tell that story. But in terms of some of the lives of folk in prison and just the whole experience and how it actually helped you on your path now as to what you're wanting to do by giving up work in the main to actually move into near enough a full-time ministry. Tell the bike.
First of all, my heart goes out to the police, the police service, because it's such a hard job. You're almost like sticking plasters on. It really is. And locking people up, just for your info, it costs £30,000 a year to keep somebody in Berlin. And in the old days, for a £600 fine, it's bonkers. Some of these guys, they're actually better off inside than they are outside. There's something not right about that. Do you know? And when they're inside, I worked in Berlin, I worked in Shots. We actually played in Shots a few weeks ago, which is a high security prison. That's a different ballgame altogether. But when I worked in Berlin, I felt safer walking about there than I did out here in the streets. Nothing to do with our security service and that, but just these guys, once they're in there, the game's over. They're just wee boys, just wee daft wee boys that can't keep their mouth shut, most of them. However, I saw good stuff as well. I saw people coming to know Jesus. One guy in particular, nothing to do with me, he said to me, he says, Michael, he said, would you pray for me? And I said, yeah, sure. He says, look, I'm getting out just before Christmas and I've got 2 boys and I need bikes for them. Would you pray that I get the bikes? So I said, sure, I'll pray for you, Stevie, no problem. So I prayed for him and I never saw him again. And in the March, he's back in. And I said, what happened? He said, oh, you wouldn't believe it. He says, but see this Christianity thing, it's brilliant. I said, how's that then? He said, well, remember the bikes? I went, yeah. He says, well, I prayed for them. I went, right. He said, but I never got them. So I just nicked 2 and asked for forgiveness. So but I was trying to explain to him it doesn't work that way. But
in terms of the book, it's called In Your Eyes. This is the last question. It's called In Your Eyes, and yeah, it's the lyrics from the 3 albums that Mike has recorded, and the story behind In Your Eyes and the particular prisoner. Before you actually give us as a poem a version of In Your Eyes.
I was working in Shots, and I was working with a guy who was in for 15 years for murder. And a hard guy. He lived in a part of Glasgow where if he hadn't killed the guy he killed, he would have killed him. Not right, but that's the lifestyle he led. That's the society he lived in. And we spoke, we met once a week and we spoke, and eventually I gave him a Bible. I've no idea if he ever came to know Jesus, I've no idea. I'd like to think he did. But he was hard man, and you could not break his defences at all. Nothing you spoke about changed the way he stood and sat and held himself. But I met him when he got out, and we arranged to meet up. And again, he sat ramrod straight, and there was this stone face. And his kids arrived, and it was like a shell fell off him. You know, it was like he completely changed in front of my eyes. And I could see a complete difference in him. He had to put on this hard man image, because if he didn't, somebody would walk all over him. But when his children arrived, there was somebody else in there, and that inspired me to write the song In His Eyes. So that's where that came from. And from the song, I was asked to write the book. I never ever thought about writing a book. The book is the stories behind every one of the lyrics I've written. So it's a good read. You can read it in an hour, and then you can pass it on to somebody you don't like. So it's a good buy, you know. But In His Eyes, that's where that came from.
What tell us it?
Yep. You doing okay without your tea and coffee? I know what churches are like. Big print. I met a man last Friday, a killer I'd been told. I'd heard that he was troubled with the stories he'd been sold. We talked about the future, but when the conversation died, I could see a kindness in his eyes. He had the face of city thunder and a hurting deep inside, like a lost and wounded lion, still searching for his pride. He said the city's just a prison with a different kind of bars. He'd seen the moon, but he'd only reached the scars. He said, I hope that they will leave me to live my life in peace. It's all that I can ask for when I finally get released. And I know it won't be easy trying to start my life again, but I hope I find a true love who will help me love again. He said, you buy into the system where the system lets you dwell. So he bought a chunk of hardness, the kind that prisons sell. And he said that she'd been faithful. As 15 years went by, but I could see the sadness in his eyes. And he had a reputation that even I'd heard. He could disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed. But deep inside this fighting man, I could see the wise, and I could see a sunrise in his eyes. And when we'd finished talking, he shook me by the hand. He said, you didn't judge me, and I know you understand. What's past is past, and what's ahead is way too far to see. What matters most is what's inside of me. I met a man last Friday, a killer I'd been told. I'd heard that he was troubled by the lies that he'd been sold. But when we talked about his children, I saw the love inside, and I could see a future in his eyes.
Thanks, Mike.
We've got a couple of more songs to do for you. We'll call these the encore. So you don't have to shout us back on again. As I say, hopefully this bucket will come round soon because the meter's running outside. But feel free to let it pass. Seriously, it doesn't matter. If you can help, great. If you don't want it, it's absolutely no problem whatsoever. This is a song, it's a play on words. It's called The Other Half. Before we do this, I would like to thank a few people from the bottom of my heart. I'd like to thank Davey and Tam and Gordon, for putting up with me. A wee round of applause wouldn't go off. Their patience is beyond measure. Their kindness, their support. I am what I am because of these guys as well, through God. I mean, God's provided these guys for me. A huge thanks to the guy at the back, Lewis Hunter. For continually making me sound better than I am. Seriously, this isn't my voice. I'd like to thank Gordon Palmer, who can't be with us tonight, for allowing us to use this fantastic venue at a very small fee. Gordon's a great man, and he's really been a good mentor to me as well. Special thanks go to Helen Cuthbertson and Alan Cuthbertson. Because this wouldn't have happened without them. The amount of work that they have done, especially Helen, while Alan was golfing, was just it's just been incredible. A heartfelt thanks from the bottom of my heart and the heart of my bottom of my heart to my wife Alex, who's just stand up, you, so that they can see you. Oh, you are standing up. Sorry. She was giving me a row the other night for going on about her height, so I apologise. I made her a nice meal and I ran her a nice sink, and it's. So seriously, I wouldn't be here without her. Whatever way you want to take that. The Other Half is a play on words. My grandpa used to work in the shipyards, and when he'd finish his shift, he would try and get to the pub before my granny got him, and he would have a half and a half, which some of you may know, some of you may not know. But as luck would have it, with a lot of these guys, they didn't make it home because they'd all of a sudden find a best mate who would link on with them. So this one's called The Other Half. In the half light of the evening, from a half moon in the sky, there's a half-cut man just sitting, watching half his life go by. And he never could determine, was he half right or half wrong? 'Cause half the things he started failed when halftime came along. Half the time, half the picture, the other half is out of reach, like photographs that are torn in half now, and you only half each. You share half your life with someone who is always half asleep, and you're half gone with your half pint, then you're in the half that's deep, and your newly found half brother talks you into half a day, but you end the night half crazy, 'cause you've only got half paid. Half the time, half the picture, the other half is out of reach, like photographs that are torn in half now, and you only half each. Huh.
he needed, so he just learned half the dance. But when this half pool was half empty, he just wanted half a chance. But in half an hour his half love will be half a world away, and he hoped for half a second, half a heart would stay. Half the time, half the picture, the other half is out of reach, like photographs that are torn in half now, and you only have each.
Thank you. This is the last song of the evening. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves, because we certainly have. We were blessed to play a few weeks ago in Maryhill in Glasgow mainly for guys recovering from addictions. That was the basis of the thing. So it was a great day. But at the end of it, I just love people. This guy comes up to me and he says, "Hey, big man." Why, anyway, he says, "Loved your songs, by the way." He says, "But me and the guys," he says, "we didn't know any of them." And I said, "All right." I said, "Well, I wrote these songs." So he thought about this and he said, "Can you write songs that we know?" That's what he said. That's what he said. I thought, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But there's a thing on the news, and there'd been a huge drug bust in the East End of Glasgow. And it was, there'd been trafficking, there'd been human trafficking, prostitution, big heroin bust, and they were interviewing some of the locals, and they said, "What do you think about the house that was busted behind the library?" And the guy goes, "What's that?" He said, "The drug bust, there's human trafficking and all the rest of it." And he turns to his mate and goes, "I never knew we had a library." Brilliant. Anyway, moving on. This last song is called "Don't You Know." I originally wrote this about a soldier who had, unknown to his family, had given his life to Jesus. And he was killed in action, and he was in heaven, but they didn't know that. It's also a song about broken lives, which I've seen a lot of as a musician in London, as a cop, working in the prisons. People don't realise that Jesus is right beside them, right beside them. All you need to do is stick out your hand and ask him into your life. That's all you need to do. He will take your hand. There's no sin that you have committed that is too big for him. You wouldn't believe the sins that have been committed on this stage over the period of years. You seriously wouldn't believe that. And he's taken us. What I like about Jesus is that he doesn't say change first and then come. He says, "Come and I'll change you." All I would say to you is, if you don't know Jesus, ask him into your life. See if I'm wrong, you've lost nothing. But see if you don't ask him and I'm right, you've lost everything. This is called "Don't You Know."
Broken man, why you crying? Woman, why you crying? Don't you know that he's walking? Don't you know that the Lord is walking next to you? Little boy, why you crying? Little girl, why you crying? Don't you know that he's walking? Don't you know that the Lord is walking next to you? So lift your head up, see him smiling. His open arms hold you tight. There is no more shame, he will carry your pain, lead you by his light. Mama, why you crying? why you crying? Brother, why you crying? Don't you know that he's walking? Don't you know that the Lord is walking next to you? And if you ask him, he will come in, shine his light upon your face, bring hope to your life, and love you won't find any other place. Oh Lord, stop their crying. Dear Lord, stop their crying. Can't they see that you're walking? Can't they see that the Lord is walking home with me?
Thanks very much. You can stampede now for the teas and coffee. Tam Stevenson, Gordon Webster, Davy Jones, thank you very much. God bless you.
Michael McMillan.